Hannah Park sat straight up in her chair, staring at the radar screen. Something was wrong. The atmospheric readings made no sense. After 5 years working at the Korean Space Defense Initiative, she had never seen patterns like these. "Director Choi," she called out, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "You need to see this." The tall, serious-looking director walked over to her station. The screen showed strange ripples in the upper atmosphere, like invisible ships moving through water. "Could it be a malfunction?" Director Choi asked, leaning closer to the screen. "No, sir. I've checked 3 times. These disturbances are real, and they're moving with purpose. Across the ocean, in other tracking stations around the world, similar alerts were going off. But the Korean team was the first to understand what they were seeing." Hannah had spent years studying unusual atmospheric patterns, and these were unlike anything natural. Meanwhile, high above Earth, the Rathi scout ships moved silently through the darkness of space. Inside one of the lead ships, Scout Commander Verext studied the readings from the planet below. His scaled fingers moved across the control panel as he analyzed the data. "Such soft creatures," he muttered, his sharp teeth gleaming in the dim light of the bridge. "No claws, no natural armor, no venom glands. How did they survive this long?" The other Rathi scouts clicked in agreement. Their species had evolved as apex predators, with tough scales, powerful muscles, and enhanced senses. Looking down at Earth's inhabitants, they saw only weak, defenseless prey. Back on Earth, Da-ho Kim was finishing his morning workout at the military training facility in Seoul. As a former Special Forces operator now working as a defense consultant, he kept his body in perfect condition. Something about today felt different, though. The air felt heavy, like before a storm. His phone buzzed. It was a message from his old friend, Hannah. "Emergency meeting. Come to KSDI now." Within an hour, Da-ho sat in a crowded conference room with other military and scientific experts. Hannah stood at the front, pointing to strange images on the screen. "These objects are hiding in our upper atmosphere," she explained. "They're using some kind of technology to bend light around them, but they can't hide the disturbances they create in the air." "How many?" Da-ho asked, his military training kicking in. "At least 30 large objects, probably ships, spread across the globe. 5 of them are positioned above major Korean cities." In space, Scout Commander Verax prepared his final report to the Rathi fleet. "The planet is ideal for hunting. The dominant species has no significant natural defenses. They rely on primitive tools and artificial shelters. Their military capabilities appear limited to simple projectile weapons and basic explosives." He paused, looking at an image of a human city. "Their population centers are densely packed, making them perfect feeding grounds. I recommend immediate deployment of hunter groups." The Rathi High Command received the report with satisfaction. Their species had conquered 12 worlds already, each time following the same pattern: find a weaker species, overwhelm their defenses, and establish hunting territories. Earth would be no different. But they had made a terrible mistake. They had only looked for natural weapons, claws, fangs, armor. They hadn't understood that humanity's greatest weapon was hidden inside their skulls. Their ability to think, adapt, and create was about to teach the Rathi a lesson they would never forget. As the sun set over Seoul, Hannah and Da-ho stood on the roof of the KSDI building, looking up at the seemingly empty sky. "They think they're invisible," Hannah said softly. "They don't realize we can track them." Da-ho nodded, his expression grim. "Let them think that. In my experience, overconfident enemies make fatal mistakes." In the gathering darkness, the first stars began to appear. Somewhere up there, the Rathi prepared for what they thought would be an easy hunt. They had no idea they were about to attack the most dangerous prey they had ever encountered. The attack began at dawn. The Rathi ships descended through the clouds above Seoul like giant dark shadows. Their cloaking technology flickered and failed as they entered the lower atmosphere, revealing their true forms: massive, angular vessels that looked like flying arrowheads. Daho Kim was already awake and dressed in his tactical gear when the first alarm sounded. He stood at the emergency command center, watching as the massive ships appeared on their screens. "Begin evacuation protocol 7. He ordered into his radio. "Get everyone into the underground shelters." The city's warning sirens began to wail. But Seoul was ready. For the past week, they had quietly prepared their defenses, moving people and resources underground. What the Rothi thought would be a surprise attack was anything but. Inside the lead Rothi ship, Hunter Captain Kress watched with anticipation as his troops prepared to deploy. "Remember," he growled to his hunters, "these creatures are weak. They will run, they will hide, and we will feast." The first wave of Rothi hunters launched from their ships. They were impressive creatures, 9 feet tall, covered in metallic scales, with powerful limbs and razor-sharp claws. They dropped from their ships using personal flight packs, expecting to find panicked crowds to hunt. Instead, they found empty streets. Hana Park watched from the military bunker as the aliens landed. She had been working non-stop with Sun Woo Lee, analyzing the data from their scans of the Rothi ships. "Their sensory organs," she said, pointing to her screen. "Look at how complex they are. They must be incredibly sensitive." Sun Woo nodded, his fingers flying across his keyboard, "which means they might be vulnerable to sensory overload." "Daho, are the sonic devices in position?" "All 23 units are ready," Daho replied through the radio. He was coordinating defense teams from various points around the city. "Just give the word." The Rothi hunters spread through the streets, frustrated by the lack of prey. Their enhanced senses picked up the traces of humans everywhere, but the creatures themselves were nowhere to be found. Then they detected movement in one of the larger buildings. "Prey," a hunter called out in excitement. A group of them crashed through the building's doors, following their sensors toward what they thought were trapped humans. That's when Daho sprang his trap. "Now," he commanded. Hidden speakers throughout the building activated, emitting a specific frequency that Hana and Sunwoo had calculated. To human ears, it was barely noticeable. To the Rothi, with their super-sensitive hearing, it was devastating. The hunters fell to their knees, clutching their heads in agony. Their own advanced senses, which they had always considered a strength, had become a weapon against them. "It's working," Hana exclaimed, watching through security cameras. "Their neural systems can't handle the frequency." From his ship, Hunter Captain Kress watched in disbelief as his first wave of hunters stumbled out of the building, disoriented and vulnerable. "Impossible," he snarled. "They're just prey." But the humans weren't done. As the stunned Rothi hunters retreated, Korean Special Forces teams emerged from hidden positions. Their weapons had been modified based on Hana's research, firing rounds that could penetrate the alien scaled armor. "Pull back," Kress ordered his troops. "Regroup and prepare for orbital bombardment." But even this plan was anticipated. As the Rothi ships positioned themselves for an attack, they suddenly found their targeting systems scrambled by electromagnetic pulses from hidden human transmitters. In the command bunker, Hana turned to Sunwoo. "Tell Daho to begin Phase 2. The Rothi wanted to hunt. Let's show them what it feels like to be the prey." As the sun rose higher over Seoul, the Rothi were learning a harsh lesson. They had expected to find helpless prey. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant. And now, the hunters were about to become the hunted. Hana Park stood in her laboratory, looking down at something that would have seemed impossible just a month ago. The body of a Rothi hunter. The alien lay on a special examination table, its metallic scales gleaming under the bright lights. "Amazing," she muttered, making notes on her tablet. "Their entire nervous system is like one big sensor array." Sun Woo Lee worked at a nearby table, taking apart pieces of Rothi technology recovered from the Battle of Seoul. "Their weapons are impressive," he said, "but their real advantage is their natural abilities. These tools just enhance what they already have. The door opened, and Daeho walked in, still wearing his combat gear. "Please tell me you found something useful," he said. "We lost 3 more cities in Europe yesterday." Hana nodded, pulling up a holographic display of the Rathi's internal structure. "Look at this," she said, pointing to certain areas. "Their sensory organs aren't just sensitive, they're all connected. It's why our sonic weapons work so well. When we overload one sense, we overload them all." Sun Wu added his own findings. "Their technology works the same way. Everything is linked together, making their systems very efficient, but also vulnerable. If we can disrupt one part, the whole thing fails." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. A voice came over the speakers. "Alert! Rathi dropships detected approaching the coast." Daeho rushed to a nearby screen, checking the tactical display. "They're trying a new strategy," he said. "Smaller groups, faster attacks. They're learning." But so were the humans. Hannah quickly shared her latest research with the defense teams. "Aim for their sensor nodes," she instructed over the radio. "The spots where their scales form a spiral pattern, that's where their sensory organs are most exposed." The battle that followed proved her research correct. When the Korean Defense Forces targeted these specific points, the Rathi hunters became disoriented and vulnerable. Their advanced senses, usually giving them an overwhelming advantage, turned into a weakness. In his command ship high above Earth, High Hunter Kress received the reports with growing anger. "How?" he roared. "How are these prey creatures fighting back so effectively?" His science officer, looking nervous, showed him the analysis. "The humans, they learn incredibly fast. They've already adapted their weapons to exploit our biological structure. They're not just fighting. They're studying us, understanding us." Back in the laboratory, Hannah made another breakthrough. She called Sun Wu and Daeho to look at her latest discovery. "See this." She pointed to a chemical analysis. "The Rathi use pheromones to communicate during hunting. If we can replicate these chemicals, we can disrupt their coordination." Sun Wu finished her thought, already understanding the implications. Daeho smiled for the first time in days. "We can make them fight each other." The next few hours were busy as they prepared their new weapon. Hannah worked with chemical synthesizers, while Sun Wu modified delivery systems. They knew they had to work fast. More Rathi ships were arriving every day. "I don't understand," a captured Rathi hunter had said during interrogation. "You were supposed to be easy prey. Why do you fight so well?" Hannah, watching the recording, shook her head. "That's their mistake," she said to her colleagues. "They thought technology and biological advantages were everything. They never considered our greatest strength." "Which is?" Sun Wu asked, looking up from his work. "Our minds," Daeho answered. "Our ability to understand, adapt, and overcome." They thought they were hunting animals, but they found scientists and warriors instead. As night fell over the research facility, the team continued their work. In labs and military bases around the world, humans were doing the same thing: studying, learning, and preparing. The Rathi had started this war expecting an easy hunt, but they were about to learn that humanity was far more dangerous than they had imagined. Ji-Won Kang stood before a room full of military leaders from around the world. The Korean military strategist had spent weeks analyzing the Rathi's battle patterns, and now she had a plan. "They think like predators," she explained, pointing to a map showing Rathi attack patterns. "They target what they see as weak points, so let's give them what they want, or what they think they want." In orbit, High Hunter Kress received news of an apparently defenseless human military base in northern Korea. His hunters were eager after weeks of frustrating battles. This looked like an easy target. "Deploy the hunter squadrons," he ordered. "Show these humans what real power looks like." But Ji-Won had prepared for this. As the Rathi ships descended, Daeho and his special forces teams waited in hidden bunkers. Hana's new chemical weapons were ready, and Sun Wu's modified sonic disruptors were in place. Remember, Daho told his teams through their secure radio channel, wait until they're fully committed to the attack. Let them think they've won. The first wave of Rathi hunters landed, moving confidently across the seemingly empty base. Their sensors detected human heat signatures inside the buildings. Easy prey, or so they thought. Now, Daho commanded. Hidden sprayers released Hana's synthetic pheromones into the air. To the Rathi's sensitive organs, it smelled like rival hunting packs invading their territory. At the same time, sonic disruptors activated at frequencies that scrambled their sensory networks. Confusion spread through the Rathi ranks. Some hunters began attacking their own teammates, fooled by the fake pheromones. Others stumbled blindly, their senses overloaded by the sonic attacks. Squad 1, move in, Daho ordered. His teams emerged from their hiding spots, wearing special suits that masked their heat signatures. They carried weapons designed by Sun Wu that could pierce Rathi armor at its weakest points. In his orbiting ship, Kress watched in horror as his hunting party fell into chaos. "Send reinforcements," he roared. "Send everything." Jai-1 had expected this too. As the second wave of Rathi ships entered the atmosphere, they flew straight into a trap. Electromagnetic pulse generators hidden in the mountains activated, disrupting their navigation systems. Several ships crashed into each other, while others were forced to land. Phase 2, Jai-1 said calmly into her radio. "All units, execute Phase 2. Around the world, other military bases launched similar attacks. The Rathi, thinking they had found vulnerable targets, instead found perfectly prepared defenders. Every weakness Hana had discovered was exploited. Every battle strategy Jai-1 had predicted was countered. Back at the Korean base, Daho led his teams through the chaos of battle. The Rathi hunters, once so confident, now fled in panic. Their sophisticated weapons and natural abilities had been turned against them. "This is impossible," a Rathi commander shouted as his forces retreated. They were supposed to be prey. Hana, watching the battle from the command center, smiled. "That's the problem with thinking of everyone as either predator or prey," she said. "Sometimes the prey fights back." As the sun set over the battlefield, the humans had won their first major victory. The Rathi fleet retreated to orbit, leaving behind dozens of damaged ships and defeated hunters. Jai-1 gathered her team to plan their next move. "They'll be back," she said, "but now they're scared. And fear makes you stupid." Daho nodded, cleaning his weapon. "And we'll be ready. Every battle teaches us more about them. Every fight makes us stronger." In space, High Hunter Kress faced an unfamiliar feeling: doubt. These humans weren't just prey. They were something else entirely. And for the first time, he wondered if his species had made a terrible mistake in choosing this planet as their hunting ground. The time had come to take the fight to the Rathi. Inside the main Korean military base, Daho prepared his strike team for their most dangerous mission yet, boarding a Rathi command ship. "This is crazy," one of his team members said, checking his modified armor. "We're going to attack them in space." "They won't expect it," Daho replied, loading Hana's special pheromone grenades into his belt. "That's why it will work." In the laboratory next door, Hana and Sun Wu made final adjustments to their new equipment. They had studied dozens of captured Rathi ships and finally understood how their technology worked. "Their ships are like their bodies," Hana explained to the strike team. "Everything is connected through a central nervous system. Find the main control node, and you can shut down the whole vessel." Sun Wu stepped forward with a small device. "This will help you find it. It detects the energy patterns unique to their control systems. Just follow the signal." High above Earth, the Rathi fleet remained in orbit, planning their next attack. They had grown cautious after several defeats, but their pride wouldn't let them retreat. Earth had to be conquered. Their species' honor demanded it. Inside his command ship, High Hunter Kress received an alert. A small human shuttle was approaching, apparently damaged and drifting. "Scan it," he ordered his crew. "No life signs detected," a Rothi officer reported. "It appears to be abandoned." Cress smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "Bring it aboard. Their technology may tell us something useful." This was exactly what Daho and his team had planned for. Inside the shuttle's hidden compartments, they waited silently. Their new suits masked their heat signatures and blocked Rothi scanners. As soon as the shuttle was in the Rothi ship's cargo bay, they moved. Heinous pheromone grenades went first, filling the air with chemicals that confused the Rothi senses. The aliens began fighting each other, unable to tell friend from foe. "Move," Daho ordered through their tactical radio. "Find that control node." The team split up, following their sensor devices through the alien ship's corridors. Years of military training combined with weeks of studying Rothi behavior made them invisible predators. They moved like shadows, striking without warning. In the ship's command center, Cress realized too late what was happening. "Humans," he roared. "They're inside the ship." But the warning came too late. Daho's team had already reached the main control node. Sun Wu's device worked perfectly, leading them straight to it. "Charges set," Daho reported. "Everyone fall back to the shuttle." The explosives they planted weren't ordinary bombs. They were designed to overload the ship's sensory network, just like their sonic weapons overloaded Rothi hunters. When they detonated, the entire ship went into chaos. Systems failed. Weapons went offline. The mighty Rothi command ship became a floating piece of metal. "Launch the signal," Daho ordered as his team reached their shuttle. A special beacon activated, sending a signal to Earth. Within minutes, military bases around the world launched their attack. Missiles carrying Hannah's chemical weapons and Sun Wu's electronic disruptors streaked into space. The Rothi fleet, already confused by the loss of their command ship, had no defense against this coordinated attack. Ship after ship lost power or fell into chaos as their crews fought each other. "This isn't possible," Cress shouted as his ship's systems failed. "We are the hunters. We are the predators." "No," Daho said to his team as they watched from their shuttle. "You're just bullies who picked the wrong planet to attack." As the human missiles struck their targets, the night sky lit up with explosions. The Rothi fleet, once so mighty and fearsome, was being torn apart by the very prey they had come to hunt. Hannah, watching from Earth through powerful telescopes, smiled. "The hunters never considered one simple truth," she said. "On Earth, even the prey knows how to fight back." For the first time in Rothi history, their warriors felt fear. After the destruction of their command ship and many others in their fleet, the remaining Rothi gathered to make a desperate plan. High Hunter Cress, his ship badly damaged but still functioning, called all remaining commanders to a meeting. Their proud, scaled faces showed something new worry. "These humans," one commander said, his voice shaking. "They hunt like us now. They strike from shadows. They use our strengths against us." Meanwhile, on Earth, Hannah made an exciting discovery in her lab. She rushed to find Sun Wu and Daho, who were planning their next attack. "Look at this," she said, showing them a screen filled with data. "I found out how their biological weapons work. The poison they use, the one that makes their claws so deadly. We can copy it." Sun Wu studied the data carefully. "Not just copy it," he said with growing excitement. "We can make it better. We can make it affect only Rothi biology." Daho smiled. "So we can use their own weapons against them, without risking human lives." "Exactly," Hannah nodded. "And there's more. Their ships use the same biological technology. If we can poison their ship systems, we can shut down their entire fleet," Sun Wu finished. In space, the Rothi were planning their revenge. "We must attack with everything we have." Cress shouted to his commanders. "No more hunting games. We will destroy their cities." But as the Rothi prepared their assault, Jai-1 was ready. She had positioned Earth's defenses perfectly, using everything they had learned about Rathi tactics. "They're angry now," she told her fellow commanders. "Angry and scared. They'll make mistakes." The Rathi attack came at midnight. Their remaining ships filled the sky above Earth's major cities, weapons charged and ready. But Earth was waiting. As soon as the Rathi ships came within range, Hannah's new weapon was launched. Missiles carrying the modified Rathi poison streaked into the sky. The effect was immediate. The biological computers in the Rathi ships began to fail. Their weapons wouldn't fire. Their shields flickered and died. "What's happening?" Kress roared as his ship's systems began shutting down. "How are they doing this?" On the ground, Hannah watched through monitors as her weapon worked. "Their own poison," she said quietly, "modified to target their technology. Everything they built, everything they're so proud of, turning against them." Daho led the counterattack. Earth's fighters rose into the sky, attacking the helpless Rathi ships. But they weren't killing needlessly, they were capturing. "Remember," Daho told his pilots, "we're not like them. We don't kill for pleasure. Take as many alive as you can." The Rathi couldn't understand this mercy. As human forces boarded their ships, they expected to be slaughtered like prey. Instead, they were taken prisoner. "Why don't you kill us?" a captured Rathi commander asked Daho. "We would have killed you all." "Because that's the difference between us," Daho replied. "You see everything as predator or prey. We see everyone as worthy of life, even our enemies." In her laboratory, Hannah continued her work. She knew the war wasn't over yet. The Rathi still had ships beyond Earth's orbit, and they might call for help from their homeworld. But something had changed forever. The Rathi had come to Earth expecting to find easy prey. Instead, they found equals, or perhaps even superiors. Their entire understanding of the universe had been changed. "Send the message to all remaining Rathi ships," Jai-1 ordered. "Tell them what we've done to their fleet. Let them know what waits for them if they continue this war." As the message was sent, the humans knew they had changed from prey to predator. But unlike the Rathi, they wouldn't let this power corrupt them. They would be better predators, ones who knew when not to kill. High Hunter Kress had lost everything: his fleet, his honor, and the respect of his warriors. But he still had one ship, his personal battle cruiser, hidden behind Earth's moon. As he watched the humans capture his fleet, rage burned inside him. "If we die," he growled to his remaining loyal crew, "we die bringing death to their leaders." On Earth, Hannah was working late in her lab when the alarm sounded. Her computer screens lit up with urgent warnings. "A Rathi ship." She called through the emergency channel. "It's Kress's vessel, coming in fast." Daho and his team were ready in minutes. They had been expecting something like this, a final desperate attack from the proud Rathi leader. "He's targeting military command centers," Jai-1 reported from the tactical room. "Starting with ours." But this time, the humans weren't just ready. They had set a trap. Sun Wu had prepared something special for this moment. "Let him get close," Jai-1 ordered. "Make him think he's surprised us." Kress's ship streaked through the night sky, its weapons charged to full power. The Rathi leader had disabled most of his ship's sensory systems, trying to avoid the humans' poisonous weapons. "See," he told his crew, "they can't detect us properly now. We'll strike them before they know we're here." But he was wrong. Hannah had planned for this. The humans didn't need to detect his ship's systems. They could track its shadow on their radar, its effect on radio waves, even the slight changes it caused in Earth's magnetic field. "He shut down his defenses to avoid our bioweapons," Hannah said, watching her screens. "He thinks that makes him safer. It makes him blind," Sun Wu added with a smile. As Kress's ship approached the Korean military base, everything seemed quiet. No defenses activated, no weapons fired. "Now," Jai-1 commanded. Hidden panels in buildings and underground bunkers slid open. Dozens of small devices activated, filling the air with a web of energy that Sun Wu had designed. "What's happening?" Cress shouted as his ship suddenly stopped, caught in the energy web like a fly in a spider's trap. Target locked, Daho reported from his fighter jet. He led a squadron of aircraft, all armed with special weapons designed for this moment. The human fighters rose from hidden underground hangars surrounding Cress's trapped ship, but they didn't fire. Instead, Hannah's voice came through all channels, speaking in the Rathi language she had learned from their prisoners. "High Hunter Cress," she said, "you have a choice. Surrender and live, showing your people that there is honor in accepting defeat, or continue this fight and be destroyed, proving that pride matters more to you than your warriors' lives." Inside his ship, Cress looked at his crew. He saw fear in their eyes, but also something else. Hope. Hope that their leader would make the right choice. For the first time in his life, the High Hunter realized what it meant to be truly strong. It wasn't about being the best predator. Sometimes, strength meant knowing when to stop fighting. His voice shook as he responded, "We surrender." The energy web powered down. Human ships moved in, not to attack, but to escort Cress's vessel to a safe landing area. As the Rathi leader and his crew were led from their ship, Daho noticed something remarkable. The aliens walked with their heads held high, showing respect rather than shame. "You are strange creatures," Cress said to Hannah, who had come to meet them. "You defeat us, yet offer mercy. You could destroy us, yet choose to spare us. Why?" "Because that's what makes us human," she replied. "We don't need to destroy to prove we're strong. True strength is knowing when to show mercy." As the sun rose over the military base, Earth's forces celebrated not just a victory, but a lesson taught to the galaxy. Humans weren't prey or predators. They were something far more powerful. They were teachers. 1 year after the final battle, Earth had changed. The Korean Space Defense Initiative had become the center of a new global defense network. Ships that once threatened Earth now sat in study centers around the world, helping humans understand the galaxy beyond their planet. Hannah walked through her new laboratory, much bigger than her old one. She stopped at a window overlooking a large courtyard where something remarkable was happening. Human and Rathi scientists working together. "It still feels strange," Sunwoo said, joining her at the window. 2 years ago, they wanted to eat us. Now they're helping us build better ships." The Rathi who had chosen to stay on Earth had changed too. They had learned that knowledge and cooperation could be as satisfying as hunting. Their natural abilities, once used only for war, now helped in exploration and research. Daho entered the lab, carrying new sensor designs. The Rathi homeworld sent another message. He announced, "More of their scientists want to come study with us." "And learn from us," Hannah added with a smile. "They're particularly interested in our teaching methods." The biggest change had happened in Rathi society itself. High Hunter Cress, after his surrender, had become an unlikely ambassador for peace. He traveled between Earth and his home world, teaching his people about the strength found in mercy and wisdom. "You know what's funny?" Cress said during one of his regular meetings with the human leadership. "Our legends always told us that great hunters must be feared. But you showed us that true greatness comes from being respected." Jai-1, now heading Earth's new defense strategy department, had created a training program that combined human innovation with Rathi hunting skills. "We learn from each other," she often said. "That's what makes us stronger." In orbit around Earth, construction teams worked on the planet's first true space defense station. It was a joint project, human engineering combined with Rathi technology. Ships from both species patrolled together, protecting Earth from any new threats that might come from deep space. "We've received signals from 3 new alien species this month," Hannah told her team during their morning meeting. "All of them peaceful, all of them interested in trading knowledge. The galaxy's starting to notice us." "They noticed that we're different," Sunwoo added. "We're the planet that turned hunters into friends." The captured Rathi ships had provided humanity with more than just technology. They had opened the door to the stars. Human scientists, working with their former enemies, had learned to build engines that could reach distant solar systems. Ready for today's test flight? Daho asked Hannah, pointing to a new ship visible through the window. It was smaller than the old Rathi vessels, but far more advanced. Our first joint design, Hannah said proudly. Human creativity and Rathi instinct, working together. As they prepared for the test, a young Rathi scientist approached them. Like many of the younger generation, he had embraced the new way of thinking. We found something in the old hunting records, he said excitedly. Stories of other worlds, peaceful species that our ancestors dismissed as unworthy prey. With your help, we could find them, make peace with them. That's the difference you made, Cress told Hannah later that day. You didn't just defeat us. You showed us a better way to live. As the sun set over the research center, Hannah looked at the stars appearing in the darkening sky. They didn't look threatening anymore. Now they looked like opportunities, chances to learn and grow. We were never prey, she said softly. And they were never just predators. We were all just waiting to learn from each other. Somewhere in those stars, other species waited to meet them. And Earth was ready, not as predator or prey, but as something far more powerful, a world that had learned to turn enemies into allies and hunters into friends.